We have a saying in the UK. It goes, "Oh yeah, Montenegro. Yeah, I've been meaning to go there. Yeah, I hear it's really good. Yeah. So even though most people would struggle to pin it on a map in a pub quiz, just by word of mouth, Montenegro already has a rep as a beautiful place to visit. Now, we had 6 days in Dubrovnik, which is just a short hop over the border, and there are a lot of day tours to Montenegro, most of them offering a virtually identical itinerary. Now look, I do get that as travel plans go, that does seem like the least sexy way to do it. I'm sure the video of, so I base jumped off a mountain into Montenegro and then ran an Ironman marathon to Podgorica all the while carrying a puppy on my back would get a lot more traffic. But look, I am a very average guy who's done an above average amount of traveling the last 2 years. I have a limited amount of time. I can get away from work. Hire cars are stressful. Day-long minibus rides around some highlights are not. And since these average about 40 quid a head, if anything, this is an incredibly easy choice. And this was an extremely rewarding day, low angle flag shot. So if you haven't gathered already, this is a very strong recommend. So up early to meet at the Pile Gate. That's pretty much the main travel interchange by Dubrovnik Old Town, if you haven't seen. Bit of a hassle meeting up, but keep your phone handy. This is one of the few times you'll be glad that the website form insisted on a mobile number. We had a slight hiding a tree in a forest problem because there's so many minibuses, including several going to Montenegro, just not actually ours. Anyway, on we go, heading south. The road out of Dubrovnik is pretty, but it's lined with so many trees and signs it became just another round of bus window roulette. The border crossing was a bit of a long wait. They're pretty strict about not filming border cross posts, and I'm not about to get hauled off a minibus just so I can get some footage of a bit of chain link fence and a few booths. Here's a pencil sketch I did. The first thing that strikes you are the thick forests. The landscape around Dubrovnik is more barren and sparse, but here it is teeming with life. We wove left and right for about an hour, going past a lot of beautiful spots, but after about an hour or so, we stopped here. Okay, well, welcome to Montenegro, I guess. This is the Bay of Kotor. It's not actually a lake. It is still connected to the sea, but it's every bit as gorgeous as any alpine lake you could find. We stopped at this coffee place. The coffee was pretty great, but suffice to say I was a little bit distracted. I mean, hey, if you're making your own way down, I think you could gladly just let 3 or 4 hours drift by with this view. Sooner than I would have liked, we were back on the road, skirting around the bay at the foot of the mountains to our first proper stop-off. This is Perast. It's a town the Venetians beautified into a gorgeous little lakeside spot. Yeah, okay, not a lake, whatever. We were actually given the choice to head over there. That's the Our Lady of the Rocks church, but the view was no less amazing from 500 yards away, and I wanted to spend the time relaxing in the town. It was just lovely. I was totally blissed out. We snatched a quick coffee and just drank in the view. This place is so pretty that even if you did the same shot composition with a bin in the foreground, it would still be pretty. Didn't want to have to leave, but you know what, actually that's just lazy writing. Just take it as read that I was reticent to leave everywhere you see in this video, okay? In fact, if I stayed out of my way, we'd probably still be sitting there a year and a half on. More of my attempts to film a spectacular backdrop ruined by trees. There was a lot of traffic going into Kotor itself, so that was a bit slow, but finally, oh damn, yeah, this is Kotor. Kotor is a Venetian fortress town, and not content to just build walls at sea level, they were like, nope, we are building them all the way up that mountain behind, so no one can climb it and get the drop on us. Kotor, are you sure? That seems like an awful lot of... Can't talk, already doing it. For context, remember we'd just come from Dubrovnik, where everyone wants to talk big about the walls. Now, much as they are impressive, the Kotor walls are so long. Plus, compared to the 23 quid you have to pay to get onto the Dubrovnik walls, these are only like €3. We were told straight off getting out the minibus that we wouldn't make it all the way up and over in just the 2 hours we had. I reasoned that my wife and friends who are with us probably don't share my fanaticism for steep Venetian fortifications, and they are always atop unreasonably steep terrain. It's like the Venetians were in competition with the Inca to create the least wheelchair-accessible civilization in history. So I left my other party members to chill and mooch in the town while I sprinted for the walls. And calling them rewarding is nothing if not a gross understatement. As you go higher and get above the terracotta rooftops and more of the bay comes into view, oh man, it's just incredible. While nowhere near the top of the fortifications, the crowning view of all of it is probably this one here. That might even be strangely familiar. This shot, or compositions like it, is often used for selling cruises around Europe or the Adriatic. So I'm virtually ready to die happy at this point, and based on the heat that day, that was starting to look like a distinct possibility as I genuinely ran up the successive staircases. I eventually turned back at about this point. Normally I'd be beating myself up for not seeing more, but not only was time against me, but actually I was far too happy to care about being a completionist this time around. Retraced my steps and pretty much ran all the way down again. I think the Kotor walls are one of my top highlights of Eastern Europe so far. far. There's a lot of Europe I've yet to see, but if you booked flights just to come and see this before just getting straight back on a plane and going home again, I think the trip would still feel 100% worth it. Getting back to the Old Town, by the way, it really is special. And again, because it kind of invites the Dubrovnik comparison, Dubrovnik Old Town is fantastic, but it's actually quite blank for a lot of it, quite architecturally austere, not least because it's had to been rebuilt and restored several times over. So yeah, really happy to be there, having an amazing time. It just didn't quite have the atmosphere of a lot of other European towns we've been to. And I'm not even talking about the crowds. Even when you just headed out at 6 a.m. with almost no one around, it just wasn't quite as mysterious or exciting as many of the places we've been. Now, Kotor though, what can I say? Kotor just has the vibes. Something between the tight streets, the gift shops, it's just vibrating with life and excitement. There's a remarkable number of churches, but just taking in the street layout is a thrill. You could easily chill there for a week in perfect contentment. So back on the road, the next stop was Budva, which is quite a change of pace from the mountainous greenery of Kotor Bay. Budva was our third town of the day, and you'll never guess who built this one. Yeah, cows go moo, dogs go boof, and the Venetians have all the best architecture in the Eastern Med. On the way in, you'll see the modern coastal town, but no shock, it's the old town which is the highlight. There's a lot of towns like that in the Adriatic, where you have sort of a new town with office blocks and suburbs stretching out for miles in all directions, but at the nucleus there's an old town with winding streets and all the history. It's pretty compact compared to Kotor, though it's still large enough to feel like you're getting lost in the winding streets. We dropped into the fortress and the views were particularly spectacular. We actually stopped off at this cafe for what was probably going to be an expensive drink, but inexplicably after 15 minutes there'd not been a single human being anywhere to take our order, so we just headed to the square instead. Wandered around a little more, headed round the cliffs past the beach, which gives you the best views back at the old town, and well, hey, before long it was time to go. The drive back was a lot longer than I was expecting. The mountains just kept on rolling past without us seeming to get anywhere much. Eventually, we were on a small ferry which shuttled us across the mouth of the bay, with Perast just visible in the distance, and soon we were retracing our steps the way we came back over the border into Croatia and back to Dubrovnik. So much as I wished we could have spent about 3 times longer at all our stops, there was something immensely satisfying about seeing the cross-section of the whole country in just the one day. Now, we've got one more mini-sode in this pick a nation in the Balkans and rush through some highlights format we've been doing. As I mentioned, there's basically a legion of tour operators operating out of Dubrovnik, and they pretty much offer 3 things. A walking tour of Dubrovnik for those who've inexplicably forgotten the internet exists, day trips along the Montenegrin coast, all very much in the same mould as the one in this video, and thirdly, day trips into Bosnia, which is where we'll be heading next. Anyways, you can check out the tracks you've been hearing in the background on bandcamp.com, and if you want to support the channel, that's the place to do it. We'll be back very soon.